right, another ambulance. Nice old one. Ford F-350 with the 7.3. Arguably the last good engine International made. Poor old deer's been sitting about a year. It was parked because of a crank no start issue. Now they need it running because they're getting busy and they need another unit in the fleet. I know nothing about it. Crank no start. So far all I know, it has charged batteries, it has full oil, and it has fresh diesel. So let's get into her. Inside this little baby, look at just a baby. Put the old Autel plugged into her so we can have a look. We got the fuel pump, the ICP desired, and voltage, and then our IPR. We go 30. We need at least 500 PSI to get this thing to go. So let's give her a spin. That was good. Good oil pressure one. Let's flick over to the fuel side. Fresh new fuel filter, and I put in a manual gauge so I can see what's happening. See what our low system is. Turn the key on. Watch. Very nice. Well, it's trying to start, but spit her up, 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 it wouldn't go. So, gave her a little tickle with the go juice. She lives. But, it's a 7.3. What do we say? It's running like a 4.2. Yeah, it doesn't run good. The switch scanners, they don't die for some reason. Pull codes out of it. Keep alive memory. Injector driver codes, and then 1, 3, and 5 contribution balance plates. This injector driver module, and then this nice 1, 3, 5 sequence. I feel like these are all connected. We're going to dig into this a bit further. Having an IDM fault like that, 3, 5. Sorry. 1, 3, 5, and not 7, but not that it's not happened before, but I got to check with this customer. He's a fleet maintenance contract of mine, so I don't have the records of this truck. I don't see it that often. I don't know if these injectors have been changed, but because it's an ambulance, because he likes to take care of his gear, I'm probably going to say IDM injectors because they're old, and new valve cover harnesses, valve cover gasket harnesses, and yeah, we'll see what he says. All right, we're getting into part 2 of the old 7.3. Injectors, valve cover gasket harnesses, and glow plugs while we're in there. We'll do some speed edits, getting all this stuff out of the way so we can see the valve covers. If you work on these trucks and don't have a topside creeper, I highly recommend it. Very easy. Just don't run it over like I did. Homemade machine, and it works. Well, that's suboptimal. I know you don't need to take the battery box out, but I like extra room, and I wanted to charge the batteries anyway, and that one's probably not going to take a charge anymore. Ooh. Don't forget that. Get all the valve cover bolts out. There's one back there that's a little bit setup. I use 13 mil on a universal bit of an extension, and proper body position helps too. If you had any comments on the part 1, a lot of the Ford guys were saying that this valve cover gasket
If you don't know what they're talking about, it's this. This is the connector. And this is all part of the harness. To the injectors and to the glow plugs. It's all one piece. I'll take it off the side. So here we got the valve cover and slash harness on the bench here. This is the front. 2, 4, 6, 8.
Now on part 1, I had misses on 1, 3, 5 and not 7. So we're gonna look at this one and then we'll look at the other side when we get that apart and compare the two.
If you're curious how these pin out, these two bigger ones are for the glow plug wires. And they're in line. Everything lines up as per the engine layout. There's 2 more big ones on this side for that one and that one. And then everything again, there's a wire, smaller ones for the injectors. 2, 4, 5, 6, 8. And the one in the middle is the power. These are all controlled as you see on the other one. Part of the injector. We're going to measure from this common, the voltage supplied, 110 volts coming out of the IDM. Each common wire on the injector plug. Each one, all 4 will have one wire that's the same. See? Black, black, black. These are a fail point because you can imagine under the valve cover it gets hot, everything gets brittle, and they're all stacked in line. So these bigger glow plug wires will draw more amperage and heat up things. So let's check it.
Okay, we're set up to measure off the common. You can see I should have very low. See? And I just check your gear. I'm going to measure all the common wires. Black. Yes. 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 Another common fail point on these is when you can disconnect it out of there and you'll see melting. For these big heavy leads for the glow plugs, these will melt and cause problems. So it's better just to change them if you can. If it's in your budget, change the whole thing. Keep in mind these checks can be done in the truck pretty easily too, to measure resistance through the injector coils as well. So you can do that one. I didn't do it because I'm doing injectors anyway, so no point. But if you're troubleshooting it a little more in depth, you plug in at the harness connector and then measure the resistance through the coil of the back to that particular circuit. If you have any that are open, that'll give you an indication you need to go a bit further into this. Right, enough electrical, let's get into the guts of this thing. I'm on the left side of the engine, driver's side, 2, 4, 6, 8. Now one thing you want to remember is see the yellow connector, yellow, yellow, blue. Number 8 is different because with the dual mass flywheel it had a bit of a lope, so they decided, hey, we'll put a different injector in that hole to take that lope out of the engine. So just be aware, if it's different, you got to keep that different one in if you haven't changed away from the dual mass flywheel yet. If you can change from the dual mass, do it. Right, I'm going to show you, there's a bolt that holds, this is your injector, this is the bolt that holds it down here. And there's an exact same one on the back side. It's very confusing to people, but you don't need to take that one out. I will show you one. You got the hold down. See, the reason you don't take it out is once you get that bolt out, and you just push this forward before you remove it, and you pry on it gently. Pry for it under there, pop it out. I'll show you. These make it easier if you have an indexing pry bar, but a heel bar will work. And you just gently pop it up like that. Yeah. It's a little stuck there, see? And you pull it out. There she is. Okay, well obviously you have to remember that all that fuel and oil that was in these galleries is now down on top of the piston. So you're gonna need to get a
sucker outer and get that out of there, or you'll hydraulic. There won't be enough room for the piston to travel before it hits an uncompressible fluid and causes damage, so that's very important. Don't forget to do that. And rinse, repeat for the other one. Wow. Damn it.
Here's a problem I've never had before. My hose is too big to go in the hole. Right, so after a quick visit to HR, we're back. The holes are sucked out. What? All the holes are cleaned out.
You also want to make sure that all these copper washers came out. 2, 3.
All seriousness, make sure everything in that injector bore is super duper clean. Down where the copper washer sits, make sure there's no deposits, no carbon. You have to get a brass wired pipe cleaner down there, do that, or clean it out. Just make sure it's super duper clean.
I already cleaned mine out, but the client requested new glow plugs right there. And you can see it's all full of oil, and I have nothing skinny enough to get that out, so I'm going to blow it out. But I don't want any of that oil getting into my new nice clean bores, so I plugged them off. And I don't want to just pull those out and I'm back to sucking out the holes again.
All right, that bank and glow plugs are in. I mean, they're just remove and replace. I owe them the new ones. They're around between 1.9 and 2. So now we're on to the injectors.
Here's our new one. You want to make sure that you got all 3 O-rings. Sealing ring, oil ring, O-ring. This is your oil separator section. This is your fuel separator section. Make sure the copper washer's on there. And don't forget these spill deflectors. I'm putting that on after it's in. Clean oil. This rear bolt that doesn't come out, and make sure it slides in those grooves first. Fit it in there, nice and square. Hold that up. Hold this up against that slot. And that's it. And then tap it down gently. Tap it. There, land it. See, now it's all loose. Gentle. Dealing with very stiff O-rings, you don't want to wreck them. And then just put your hold down in. Once all your O-rings are seated, torque her down. 120 inch-pounds.
More speed editing. Right, after all that stuff, we got this passenger side valve cover harness apart. Now we're looking this way forward. 1, 3, 5, 7. Same setup, the common. We're gonna check all the leads. That one's okay. Okay. Okay.
I'm gonna push on and get all these injectors out just like the other side, swapped over, put everything back together, and then we'll run it and see where we land. Simple rig up, all of them tested right around 3.3 amps.
I don't even remember where I left off. This video is so long. Got her all back together, and I thought, well, before I condemn this IDM, because it's either the IDM side or we have a good old-fashioned injectors issue. So let's kick it in the guts and see what happens, was my logic.
And this happened.
Good old-fashioned screwed up injectors. So, win. And I'll keep the IDM that I already had programmed to the VIN off to the side, because inevitably it's gonna need it. There you go. All bet.